Granddad never mentioned that there were men as dark as this. Wow, look at that nose. He's just like a pig. He's a monster! Hut!
In today's episode, I'm joined by PigglesDiGaijin. You are a YouTuber and want to give people, or you, the opportunity to tell people more about your channel, and thank you for being here. So go ahead if you want.
If I want to. All right. Hi. My name is... my name is Andre. I'm a Jamaican living in Japan. My YouTube channel just shares my experiences as well as I do some skits, and I'm trying to do some podcasts. It's so hard to get work on logistics with people to meet based on the location and stuff. But I really want to do more podcasts of more informational stuff for persons coming here. But generally, I try to look at things with a bit of satire, some comedy, as well as regular stuff. I didn't want to be like other Japanese YouTube channels, but I also wanted to distinguish myself with my own Jamaican style and flavor. But I've been here for 4.5 years, going 5 next year May. I have I think a day-to-day command of the language, not fluent, but I can get by in most situations. Yeah, I think that's enough until you ask me questions.
Is that a tough language to learn, Japanese?
Invariably, because of how one thinks in English, the language is almost like different. We do subject, verb, object. They do subject, object, verb. So the verb tends to come last, and then there are different connections and particles. We don't think about particles like that in English because it's just something natural for us, but there are certain particles you have to use based on the grammar. I think the grammar is really what gets people out, because you can understand the words, but if you don't know how to arrange them properly, you might come off sounding like a baby, or you might come off sounding like you can't speak well. So that's really one of the things. That intonation and pronunciation is very important here as well, because their alphabet is based on phonetic sounds, as like pairs of letters in the Roman alphabet. So apart from the vowels, a, e, u, e, o, which those are how they pronounce, then you have ka instead of k, a soft k or whatever. And so basically how you see the words is how it's pronounced. In English, you kind of have little variances in how you can say certain, like Polish and Polish. You don't have that in Japanese. They're said the same way, or with a little inflection in the word, but it can be difficult. So there are words that sound the same, or are spelled the same, sound the same, and mean different things as well. But it's kind of hard to pick up for me, I think. But if you study hard every day consistently, you can get through. I don't like to study, so that's why I haven't been successful with that yet.
Okay. So I wanted to discuss dating in Japan. Do you have any issues with dating Japanese women?
I don't have issues to date any woman, but issues in terms of me having a problem with them, or me having problems dating them. As in, like, if I have any reservations in dating a Japanese woman, you mean?
No. Do you have any problems dating them? Not if you have any issues with them. Dating.
I think, I had some initially. The language barrier was one of the issues initially. When I developed enough of the language, I found that it wasn't the language alone. It was the cultural differences, the nuances, the social differences that kind of made things weird at some point. I was actually, the only real kind of semblance of a relationship. I was dating this girl for about this woman, for about 5 months, and after that she was like she really couldn't ask her to be my girlfriend like in the first month, and she said she has to think about it. She's not just kind of. It was no. After the second month, I asked her. She's like, "It's kind of early, right? It's kind of fast." I'm like, "Wait, what? What?" 2 months. And it's okay, fine, whatever. And we went out and we did all the things that couples would do. I did actually, funny story. I did actually did a story about this on my channel. But in short, I basically held back a lot because she said she wanted to go slow, which was an error in my part. I should have just continued at my regular pace. I tried to compromise, and in compromising that, I actually compromised the whole interaction and relationship. So I guess she only could see me as a friend. So she couldn't see me as like someone she could have an intimate relationship with, which was really sad though because she was really a nice person.
Okay.
But she couldn't she couldn't see me as anything but a friend. Yeah.
Going a little bit deeper, what would you say is your best and worst overall experience with dating Japanese women?
I think my worst experience is, well, about a 5 month thing was kind of a bit long, and it took a turn for the worse. Like in the 5 months, in the last 2 weeks of that thing, it was just kind of weird. They started to separate. They do this thing where when they don't want to, because they don't like to confront you, they start to contact you less and less, or responding to you less and less frequently. And I noticed that, and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" And then, all of a sudden, I can't do this because of this, and I'm busy, and that sort of thing. I really don't like indirect communication. Or I like when someone say, "Hey, I'm not really feeling you." Finish, or I'm not whatever. But I don't like when people like, "Oh, I'm kind of busy today," or "What about tomorrow? I'm busy tomorrow. What about next week? I'm busy. What about next year? I'm busy." No, just say, "Hey, I'm not really feeling it like that. If you want to hang out, that's fine, but nothing's going to happen going beyond this." And I'm perfect with it. I've had a Japanese girl say that to me after one date. Like, "I don't want this to go any further." She didn't even let me walk her home. She said she just wants to stay like this. Like friends, that's it. She didn't want to even get any ideas. And I can respect that totally. My best dating experience wasn't actually with, should I even say this? Well, yeah. I dated someone who was in a relationship for some time. Yeah, and that was unfortunately that was my best dating experience, because I guess they knew what they wanted and they weren't getting it from that person, and so I was basically I'm supplying the demand, I guess, meeting the demand with my supply, I guess. So we did stuff like went to picnics, went on a picnic in the port, and went shopping, went out to eat. It was like almost like a real relationship, but we know that it wasn't really real.
Okay.
Yeah.
I reached out to you because you made a response video to Nobita's White Guy versus Black Guy in Japan. That video was taken down, but again, you talked about it. And for those of you who don't know, regardless if the white guy was successful or fat, the 30 Japanese women that Nobita said he interviewed overwhelmingly preferred the white guy over the successful black guy, successful or fat or not. Do you think that Nobita's findings are representative of how Japanese women tend to date in terms of race? Why or why not?
That is interesting. I think it is changing, but in general, I feel Japan has is it an inferiority complex? I wouldn't say inferiority complex, but there is a marked difference. You'll find a lot of men who are Caucasian and a bit more chubby or portly would stand a better chance than persons that look like me. You know what I mean? If you're usually more athletic looking as a black person, then it is. I mean, generally, if you're more athletic looking, you stand a better chance. But a lot of these, I think Japan is cultured into thinking that only white people speak English, I guess, because America, USA, Britain, France, they know all those countries. But you ask them to name a country in Africa, they're like, wait, what? And even some black people aren't able to name countries in Africa. So I'm not saying that, Japanese are ignorant, but I'm just saying, compared to other things, they can say Italy, Europe, France, Deutsch, they're able to name those countries, and they are attracted to certain things like blue eyes and blonde because it's different to them and it's pretty, and light skin is seen as more. We know that as a worldwide thing. Persons feel that we were conditioned to believe that being lighter skin means you're more beautiful, although that is slowly changing and stuff. But in Japan, I feel, yes, there is a certain bias in terms of how they want to date. The more let's say the more open type of Japanese girls are like usually we have them the hip hop dancers or persons that have been or studied abroad or like a certain type of music tend to be more open to dating dark skinned dudes. Uh, like if a more reserved like Japanese girl that is just typical Japanese girl that's like oh my god, not too first she might be like she kind of like taken aback and she might just want to try a flavor once or somebody don't really try to have a long-term relationship with some dudes. Although it does, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, obviously, because black people do have Japanese girlfriends and vice versa. Some Japanese girls, some black girls have Japanese boyfriends and vice versa. But more often than not, you'll see a Caucasian with a Japanese person being together because of that complex that they have. I think that's oh, he's so cute. He has blue eyes and okay, great.
So, if you're black in Japan, would you say that race is something that you should be concerned about when it comes to dating, or is that still slowly changing? Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much would you think that a black person should be concerned?
Race. I think it's harder for black women, definitely. Because one, a lot of them don't want to date Japanese men, whatever reason they have, or whatever. And so their pool is significantly smaller, the dating pool. And then you have a lot of black men that come to Japan, and because they're in Japan, they don't want to have a foreign girl. They want to, get that Japanese girlfriend or whatever, or try Japanese girls. So the black men tend to have a bigger dating pool and probably will have less issues with race, I feel. The Japanese men, a lot of them kind of see the black girls as like something to, like as a token or something to go after and try. And then when they're tired of it, they're tired of it. So I think women will have a bit more concern, maybe a 6.5, 7 guys, 5, 4. I mean, if I wanted to be honest, like for me, dating here in Japan is different because I am someone that is I want to have like a one girl. I'm not trying to have many girlfriends. 1, 2, I want to have something meaningful, so I don't go out to meet girls and have a one night stand or swipe right on Tinder to have a one night stand or that sort of thing. So, but for persons who just want to do that and move through, I'm sure they would have more success than somebody probably wanting to have a meaningful relationship.
Okay. How much do you think that parents influence, particularly their daughters, to not date black versus women choosing themselves in Japan to date white or not date black?
Right. So, especially, I think, I've actually had the experience speaking to / dating a couple Japanese girls, and even some of the married women. What happens is that Japan marriage is very important, family is very important, and they also want to preserve their oneness and keep the wealth or whatever resources they have within the family line. And a lot of the parents have a bit of cash, have some resources, and they oftentimes probably threaten their daughters, like, yo, if you can date until whatever, 25, 26, by 25 you need to get married to that good Japanese man, you know what I mean? Or by 27 you need to be married to that Japanese guy that I picked for you 5 years ago, you know what I mean? So a lot of parents probably have a major influence because of the resources that they have, and the fact that Japanese persons they consider family very important, so they don't really want to go against their parents' wishes in any case, or get the parents' blessing. I think the generation that is coming up now, the parents that have children at 5 and 6 and 7, because of globalization and exposure to the world and interactions with people, they might be more open to having their daughters or sons dating foreigners. But persons that are dating now will find it a bit more difficult to actually settle down and marry a Japanese person, if I'm being honest. Okay. Well, that's in my opinion,
because of the parents.
Yeah, because of parents, yeah.
Okay. I wanted to talk a little bit about race overall, and I'll get to Nobita about that in a second. But in terms of pure racism, I'm talking about like getting weird looks or just overall racist behavior. How bad would you say that racism is for Black people in Japan?
Recently I've been like, hold on, it's like I've been like thinking about the how we even define like certain things and racism and xenophobia itself, and the fact that it's not only a thing about being Black, it's also about being a foreigner initially, because the whole thing is about Japan is homogenous, about 98% basically, or whatever, the big, some very high number, and then everything else is outside. Everybody else is a foreigner to them, and so a lot in the cities. I think it depends. Racism per se, I mean, it's the fact that you're different and you look different, and if you see a lot of the advertisements or on the commercial and the marketing boards, you're going to see more white people. In the English schools advertisements, you're going to see white people or persons, and the white people are like blonde hair, blue eyes. That's particularly the aim, the Aryan type look, or they're not even that cute, to be honest, but because they're white, that's good enough for them. So even the English companies market to foreigners as white persons speaking to them. I'm in a company that the parents have requested that they have someone that is white, right? They don't care of the competency or the competency of the teacher. They just want a white teacher because they feel more comfortable, or for whatever reason. Depending on where in Japan you are, people can be more open or a bit more closed to how they act towards you. Persons who are not exposed to you, of course, at first are like the ones there because you're different. But I tend to find those that act more like more overt, like stuff like move their bag away from you, or say something rude to you, like go home foreigner. I tend to find that in the cities and the people that are drunk. I know when you're drunk or you're drinking alcohol, you tend to be a bit more of your true self. Like things that you hold back, things that you subdue, those tends to come out as the raw emotion sometimes. So I've found that while I'm in the city, I will get more of the rude words being said and the speaking in Japanese, thinking you don't understand, which they feel that they're safe, So they will say stuff like, "Oh my God, isn't he too dark? Look at him. Oh my God, why is his skin so dark?" and stuff like that. And the tone because also, sorry, it's going to be very long-winded because I wasn't prepared. What happens is that, like in Japanese, you have different levels of speech, like the formal, polite form, and the informal, and then whatever. Based on the tone of how they say things, usually they speak about in a very informal way, in the formal tone, and use a lot of slang words and stuff. So you can tell, like, oh my God, this guy, like, oh my, this nigga dark. It's not like, oh, isn't he dark-skinned? Well, okay, that's interesting. It's more like, oh, damn, he's dark. Oh, like, so the tone also plays a lot in it. Especially when they're always sorry they get caught speaking Japanese and you understand and not sorry for what they said. So it's like you say, "Oh yeah, I understand you." Oh, sorry. They're not sorry for what they said. Actually sorry that you caught them saying it. So it's more about an embarrassment thing, not that they're actually sorry for saying the thing. They're sorry for the fact that you could understand what they're saying. For me, I feel that because they don't weaponize their fear of foreigners in terms of Black people, like they're not a violent people, and they don't really like interfere with or like confrontation, the racism here is not as pronounced then, or it's not something that's really talked about heavily, or it's something that people take seriously, as opposed to somewhere like, let's say in the Middle East or in America or in Brazil, where it's more like overt and more physical, or more it's easier for you to see. And so little subtle things they do here, people say, "Oh my God, okay, he just moved the bag for me, so what? That doesn't mean anything." But If the fact that every time somebody comes on that is black or a foreigner on the train comes on and you feel threatened, that you have to hold up and you turn around or you start coughing because they're beside you, and that sort of thing. That's just a different way or a different form of racism that is, I guess, more acceptable, if you know what I mean, to others. And apparently, because it's more about foreigners than just black and white, persons who are white in Japan now actually claim that they understand what people that look like us go through elsewhere in the world, because they are now, oh my god, why would they sit beside me, or why would he say something like that? Oh my god, they're not used to having adversity. This was that way then, or facing adversity. But it is more of, I feel, in Japan, a foreigner versus Japanese than black versus Japanese. Because the black fits into the foreigner thing. The foreigner is a big subset. And if you break it down, you have black, white, Indian, whatever. So it's more of the big foreigner thing than a black per se versus Japanese. Although, you're going to have incidents because of your skin color that, it don't really fly. I have kids who have wiped their book, touch their book, and they take their book and wipe it on the floor and wipe their hands and say, oh, it's dirty. You know what I mean? In a class. And this is a high school kid. I didn't understand what you were saying at the time. But when I remember somebody was saying it again, that's when it clicked that he was saying, "Oh, dirty, kitanai," and stuff. And I was like, "Wow, that's not even. You don't do that anywhere in the world. Like as a student, you don't do that to a teacher, regardless of where they're from. I would have never dreamed of doing that as a child to a teacher, even if I didn't, like the teacher or anything like that."
Okay.
And they say it so loudly. They say it without a filter because they obviously assume you don't understand Japanese, or they don't remember that you understand Japanese. Things that happen in the classroom that I teach, even if it happened when I was a child, it was without the teacher hearing. It was something like a little whisper, or the teacher's back is turned, and we write a note and show, and then we're back to normal or whatever. But they just do it out and they don't care. Kids have said, ask me why my skin is black and this is white. But I mean, that's most of it's out of curiosity. Then sometimes actually very rude. You can tell the tone when they say it. Like, oh, Sensei, Sensei, so you're Jamaican. Okay, so, why is your skin black and why is this white? Or is it Sensei? So based on the tone, I can know if they're being this rude or they're really interested in knowing why, genuinely why I look like this. And I asked, so recently, the last year and a half, I've been answering them saying, why is your skin like that? They'll say, because I'm Japanese, or it's because I'm Jamaican. But that is my simple way of dealing with it now. At first, I didn't know how to answer. But the kids really open my eyes to a lot of things and how to deal with the adults. I can deal with the kids, but when adults do similar things like that, it really gets me annoyed. The staring is fine. So when they stare at me, I just make it worth the while. Then since he's staring, I'm going to act like an idiot, or have my hair out in an afro, or I have on a mask or whatever. It's okay, fine. You stare at me as well. I enjoy myself. I'm not going to let you diminish my shine or diminish my day. But some people can't deal with it. Like if you have a certain personality type, sometimes persons are like, I can't deal with this in Japan. Like I can't deal with the passive aggressiveness. I can't deal with all the shade. I can't deal with all of this nonsense that they do, because Japan is all about show and the image and perception. So instead of saying something to you directly, they do it behind your back, or their actions, you're next door to them, they just slam the door, or they're trying to pass you and they're like, clear their throat. They don't say excuse me, they clear their throat. That's something they do to everybody, but I really don't like it. Or things along those lines. They're very passive aggressive here. So a short answer, yes, you should be concerned about it, but it's not anything that's going to really adversely affect you, because you're not going to die, because the police don't have guns, so you're not going to be shot. And two, you might get harassed by the police, maybe, depending on where you are. Like, they ask you questions and want to see Gaijin card, which is something that you have to do anyway as a foreigner, whether black, white, or Chinese, or whatever. And to be honest, Japanese are actually more racist, I feel, towards Chinese and Koreans. They don't like them. Like I have kids that say they don't like Chinese. I say why? They say they don't know. I'm like, so how you what? How come you don't know? What do you mean you don't know? I don't know. Or a kid that says, oh, foreigners are by the way, foreigners are scary. I'm like, what do you mean foreigners are scary? Yeah, like first but firstly foreigners are scary, like, okay. Why are they scary? I don't know, they're just scary. So I think a lot of it is ingrained in from a young age that first they don't talk to strangers and foreigners are like scary people for something. So I don't know.
I think there's to answer the Chinese Korean thing. I think there's a history.
Yeah, there's a war.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Japan stole from them. So Japan acting like they're all. They're not getting into that, but yeah. Japan what they did. Japan knew what they did, and they they don't like to admit it, and they apologize already. But some Koreans are not happy. They want them to apologize again and again and again.
Yeah.
But Shinzo Abe said, "We're not apologize anymore. Apologized already. Let's move on."
Yeah.
But Japan thinks they're slick. And then the world is like, oh my God, Japan is so awesome and great, but they don't know that Japan stole and plundered. They stole a whole writing system from China. They stole tea from China. They stole,
yeah. Sorry. But just to wrap up that section of questioning, just to get an idea, the racism is for foreigners overall, but there may be an extra layer for blacks, or okay.
Basically, it's more of a xenophobia, but then it's like an extension of it's foreigners, and then because you're black, you actually fall in the foreign thing, and it's actually like a little elevated because worldwide, oh, we're gangsters or we're only athletes, or the stereotypes that they have, they follow the stereotypes more until you actually demystify them or bring that myth busting thing. But I mean, I think it's just because it's not weaponized. Now, if they were beating the shit out of us and spitting on us, because then now people will be like, oh my God, it's really bad here. But their stuff is more more indirect. It's not open. It's more implicit. It's not an explicit thing. But,
yeah.
Hey, no, we don't have any. No, sorry, sir. Good day. Right, like that sort of thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Before I ask my next question, I need to know, did you see Nobita's follow-up videos on Dear Blacks or Black Can Be Dangerous for Japan?
Yeah, I did watch them at one point.
Okay.
I was about to comment and say it's not worth the energy because he's clearly been brainwashed, or at least he's a character.
I'll get into that in a second. I want to say first off, before I ask this question, I do not agree. I think that what he said was basically racist, and I'm half black, half Puerto Rican, so I'm not trying to be a troll when I ask this question. But those videos are taken down as well. There's an article that kind of gets into it, but from what I remember from those videos, he said basically that blacks complain too much about slavery, and high crime rates within the black community in the U.S. at least are the reasons why blacks may be dangerous for Japan. Again, that's racist, but and I don't agree with that. But do you think that Nobita's views are representative of how Japanese look at black people, or is he like an extreme outlier?
I don't think he's that extreme. He might be a doped up version of what people think. But in first thing in their mind, oh, he's black, okay, maybe he's scary, maybe he's dangerous. Like initial thoughts. But they're not going to act as like that. But then when they get to know you, depending, because I'm not saying we have violent people, of course. There are violent people in every race. But I guess ours it gets heightened because of how it's covered in the media. What Nobita does, though, Nobita takes some of the statistics and takes it from sites that are not as reputable. They're more biased. And for anybody that knows anything about statistics, you can make statistics work for you to fit your argument. So if you take a segment of it not in its entirety, or you take it from a time period where a lot of information wasn't available, then you can always flip it to make it look like things are happening. And what is interesting is that he doesn't like he didn't at the time or wasn't open to having persons speak to him that were a bit more, let's say, more direct in how they felt or more open. He said he wanted to interview me based on my video, and I said sure, I have no problem. I said if you're coming on my channel to argue, then we won't do the video. So I'm like, okay, we're willing to talk and we'll speak. Of course, we're gonna speak amicably because we're prepared and stuff. He didn't follow through with me. He went with some other persons. And basically, he kind of guided the conversation and edited the video in a way that made them look a bit, not silly, but they didn't look as prepared as they should have been. And so it kind of fed his argument a certain way. The thing is, he would not look at things from the historical standpoint in America and how things and systems have been put in place. And even persons in America now don't believe in the systems. But it is evident to see that things have been done historically to ensure that one race or one race is at a disadvantage. And we're not even going to talk about like the fact that, all right, fine, complain about slavery. Fine, slavery happened. And yes, all right, we're to get over slavery. Fine, whatever you want to say. But how do you get over 300 and odd years of being behind, of having to start with $0 in your account at 300 other years when other persons had millions of dollars or let's say 100,000 US in their account? There's no way you're going to catch up based on that and general passing down and land. We never owned land. We had to fight for ours. You know what I mean? Black people, I'm speaking in general, ours. So he would not open his mind to those things and seeing how things will increase exponentially down the years. Blacks got to a point where they had a Wall Street, and that was bombed by who? Right? So things like that he doesn't know about and doesn't want to know about because it goes against his point. And so because he speaks, and because he's a Japanese person speaking English, other Japanese person are going to be drawn to him and say, okay, he's speaking, let me learn. You see, a Japanese guy is speaking English, so let me try and listen to him and see, because his pronunciation will be similar to me, and it will be easier for me to understand what he's trying to say. He could put in the subtitles in Japanese, so he has a market there. And then you had coon-ass people, sorry, you had black people who were onto, oh yes, he's right, because black people are just lazy and this and that. But you tell me, if we were to start a race and somebody got to start running 200 years before you, no matter how fast you are, you could be Usain Bolt. When are you going to catch them up? The time to catch them up is going to be much, much harder. If they're running at the same pace, let's say they're white, they're Usain Bolt, and they start 200 years before you, and you're Usain Bolt and start black 200 years later. When do you think you're going to catch them up? Does that mean? So all black people have been saying that we haven't had a fair chance, in honesty. And when we try to advance, you guys always find a way to kind of hold us back.
Yeah.
And then you guys say, oh, let us take action to sort this out. So when people say, what about affirmative action? Yeah, you guys owe us that because we couldn't get into colleges because we were black. So you kind of have to create a space where, okay, you have to let in these amount of black people because, you guys are being whatever. Otherwise, you wouldn't let in black people at all. So people always miss the point. They always miss the point when they don't want to listen or don't want to understand. So Nobita really is, I feel, he could represent a good amount of persons in Japan how they feel. I really think so. I mean, as I said before, persons who are becoming more aware and are reading and not taking stuff as doctrine and gospel now. So a lot of them are interacting with foreigners and seeing that people are not actually all bad, but it's just people. The skin doesn't mean that they're bad. It's just what's on the inside that makes them bad, and so or makes them bad according to what society says. And so, yeah, I feel it's a dangerous thing because he was basically gaining a lot of subscribers and persons would be like following him like, oh my God, he's speaking the truth, praise him, you know what I mean? So it was really a dangerous thing. Actually, it was some of us in Japan that got his video shut down, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, his videos aren't up anymore.
Yeah, it was a black people in Japan were like, yo, we need to stop this. No,
Yeah.
we didn't share his videos. We basically were like, all right, we started flagging his stuff.
So I wanted to add a couple of words to what you said. I tried to reach out to him as well, Nobita, and he didn't say anything. I noticed that he did get a lot of his facts from conservatives or right-wing sites, and when he did his videos on victim mentality, like, he focused on the black conservatives who would just parrot whatever he was saying to make himself look like he wasn't crazy. So he wasn't interested in interviewing black liberals or people who could tell him that, hey, there weren't any black people in baseball until 1947, at least in the 20th century. That Brown versus Board of Education, or the not ability, black people couldn't vote to the 60s. Like, he didn't want to talk to people who would point out that it wasn't just slavery that ended and poof, everything ended. That there was
Jim Crow.
He didn't want to talk to people who knew that.
Poor guy.
He wanted to talk to people who said that blacks have a victim mentality. But in any case, I wanted to point out that I don't agree with how he views crime. I don't agree with how he looks at U.S. history. But let's take into consideration whatever he's saying is true. Even with that in mind, how can you make a video that shows that black people, when they do everything right, are at a disadvantage to date Japanese women compared to white men? And after that, seeing that own video that you created, then talk about how blacks are dangerous and then point that blacks are complaining too much. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
The correlation wasn't there. He don't make it. You see, when you're trying to, I think he also did the videos to kind of get to be controversial. So, and controversy sells and gains like views and stuff. And at some point, I felt he was poking at the bear. So he did videos. If you notice, there's a time, they're black people, they're Latinos, they're gays, they're Muslims. He was just going at people, spouting this vitriol, and it was too much. And people are saying, no, let's stop. Like, let's not pay him any mind anymore, or just get rid of him or whatever. Because, and then he made up some crap about how person saw him in a coffee shop and threatened him. Like, who has the time to threaten his skinny ass? Come on. Homie, don't even bother. The black people threatened him or whatever, and this and that. That is why I made the video. What? How can I can't even bother anymore. Yeah. He was really awful at these videos that he made. And even you find the statistics that these areas have the highest level of crime. Why does crime occur? That's first. You see, you have to approach these things on levels. You know, it's not black and white per se, pun intended. But what causes crime? Unemployment. Why are people unemployed? Because they don't have access to education, or they can't afford education, or generationally things have been put in place, things have happened. Okay, fine. Who has the highest level of unemployment? Why is that so? Okay, good. You look at the reason. Okay, blacks are unemployed because what? And then you look at how many people are in jail, how many people are jailed or put in prison as based on their skin, not even based on skin color, but based on their age and where they live and what they find. Then you look at the race. They say, okay, why are blacks 19 to 25 more incarcerated than whites 18 to 95? Then you say, okay, fine. And you look at the same, and they say, what are the crimes they're being incarcerated for? You look at the same crimes and compare. And then, wait, but if 10 white people commit rape and 10 black people commit rape, only 2 white people are going to jail as opposed to 12 out of the 10 black people are going to jail. So why is that so? What is different between the cases? And when you get down to the nitty gritty, you realize there's certain things. Oh, he was a superstar white swimmer. You know, don't care about the superstar black athlete who you wrongly accused of rape that lost his chance to go to make a career in the NFL and comes out 5 years later without the education, with a record. So now he can't get a job, a proper job. You know what I mean? But a guy that's, his father has a trust fund and he's on the board of whatever, so he's okay, he gets off with community service for 15 months and then for good behavior. He was just trying to have fun. What? Come on, man. sad. Sorry.
That's fine. Forgot what I was going to say, but crap. Let me think. Damn it! I can't remember what I was going to say. I think that
We're running too long.
yeah, I think that he's giving a platform for people to be racist, and I don't remember what I was going to say, but that's how I view it. I have a couple more questions. If I have my thought in my head, I'll get back to it. But what do you have to say to people who have a negative view of Japanese? What do you have to say to Japanese people who have a negative view of blacks?
Well, I'd have to ask them what would have caused that negative view. Just have a conversation with them. I wouldn't be like, "Oh, you hate black people, why?" I'm like, "All right, so hey, what's up?" And talk to them. If they're willing to talk, one, ask what was their experience with black people if they had that, and say, "Fine, okay." And then I'll use things they can understand to see if we can come to agreement that probably it was a hasty judgment or they're justified. Because let's face it, you have people that are really shit human beings, and they just happen to be black. And you can have a bad experience with something once, and for years you're marked off it, and then you try it again, and it's much better. I will use this example. The first time I had eggplant, it was absolutely garbage, bitter. My father, I think, cooked it was too young, or it wasn't fully ripe. And he cooked it, and I had it. It was bitter. I'm like, what the hell is this trash? I'm never having it again. I didn't eat eggplant until I came to Japan. That's 20 odd years later. I swear eggplant was utter garbage. And it's actually pretty good. No, because I guess it was the right situation. The right circumstances. I guess learned how to cook it and read how whatever and try it again. No, for some people they only need to do something once and that's the end of it. That's it. They're not going to give it another chance. So, with that in mind, you have to approach life like that. People have form opinions based on their experiences or experiences of others. So if my very good friend had a bad experience with a Japanese person, I'm going to say, okay, why did this happen? Oh, they just did that and that and that. Okay, fine. With that in mind, I'll be a bit more guarded and reserved when dealing with a Japanese person. But if the Japanese person if the person that I'm speaking to, the Japanese person, turns out to be a asshat, then I'm like, okay, you're right about that. But if I meet someone that is not as bad as you say, I say, hey, probably it's not as bad, but I'll still be on guard, right? So, in essence, you have to find out what is the root. If it's because, I watch the movies and I watch the news, I'm like, oh, well, right, we know where you're getting your stuff from. But if it's like, this black guy was rude to me in the train or something. All right, so what happened? Oh, I walked past him and bumped him and whatever. I'm like, well, you bumped him. Did he say sorry? Oh, okay. Maybe that's why he was a bit aggressive, whatever. So, if we can find out the root cause of what causes the negative view, then we can do something to mitigate it, maybe. If it's something we can't ameliorate, then that's that. I would just say, well, you can't live your life because of one bad experience, or 2, or 12, or whatever. You have to go into everything with a fresh perspective. That's how I view things. Even my students, I have kids that have said very mean things to me. That listen, I'm upset with them, upset with the behavior. The next time I come, I'm like, hey, what's up? And they're like, okay. You know what I mean? Even within the lesson, sometimes they do something good, whatever they did bad is gone and erased. So we kind of have to be, we don't have to be. It would be nice if persons were open to a discussion about something, and then based on that, after the discussion, they can say, well, I really don't, you haven't changed my mind about it or whatever. But, yeah.
I remember my point, and I wanted to make it just before I ask the final question. Just about Nobita for a second. If you took his logic to and applied it to Asians, and you said, hey, why are they underrepresented in like sports and stuff like that? And then you said, well, it's not so much that there's historical discrimination and that Asian men have been emasculated, it's because they have low testosterone and they're not as physically strong, and you point to like pseudoscience to justify that, they're discriminated against, and all of a sudden Asians go fucking crazy. So, when I find myself in that particular situation, I guess to add to your question or your point about Japanese who have negative views of blacks, if you apply the same, you just apply the same logic to them that they're applying to you, and you see their reaction, and then it's like, okay, well, you see what you're doing? You're being racist. I think that's another way to handle it. Never been to Japan, but just wanted to add to that because I remember what I wanted to say. My last question is, because I know we've been doing this for a while, what do you have to say to Japanese women who don't want to date black men because they have some racist view of them, that they're just like, you know, too aggressive or whatever?
I guess for the Japanese women that understand English, what I want to say, I mean, what I want to say, I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but if you do find an opportunity to meet a nice person and they happen to be black, you give them a chance. If not, then whatever happens after that, it's fine. If you don't learn your lesson after dating somebody once or date a type of person once, then that's shame on you, right? So, and to be honest, people have bad dating experience regardless of the person's skin. As I said before, it's more about the personality and the type of person. So, I mean, if you have never tried or never dated a black person, that's fine. You don't have to do it. But don't be closed off to the idea of dating somebody outside of your race because of something you heard. That's for everybody, actually. But something you heard, or because try it for yourself and see. If you see signs that it's going to go south, then you get out pretty early. So yeah, even within the black community or within the Caribbean, where I'm from Jamaica, of course, and we have little things that we notice about other persons, and so we kind of watch to see, and then if something happens, oh, there it is, yep, told you, that type of person always does this sort of thing, and so you kind of stay away from that because of not wanting to go through the hassle of being disappointed. But you do find that a lot of the persons that are aggressive in Japan, especially I found, are I don't want to say this, but like what there are areas in Japan where they have promoters and stuff, and basically you have a lot of Africans, persons from the continent of Africa. The continent of Africa, guys, okay? So it's not the whole Africa. So like maybe like Nigeria or Ghana or Senegal or those places. And sometimes they can be a bit aggressive in trying to get people to come into their club. And they try to be persuasive. And sometimes their persuasion comes off a bit aggressive, or they're trying too hard, earnest. They're like, oh yeah, come on to my club, come on. And sometimes they try to coerce you, and that coercion may come off a bit aggressive. So if the Japanese girl that lives in Tokyo says, yo, she doesn't really date, doesn't like black men because they're aggressive, I'm like, I could see why, if she has had interaction in those areas with a certain set of people. But you can't. But you also have a lot of aggressive Japanese guys. I see them doing it. So as I said to you, it's more about human beings, because even in whatever race you are, going to have a set of people that behave like that. So, I don't date Japanese men or don't date Japanese women that are born in April because of this and that. You know what I mean? So people are going to date who they want to date, and they're going to give excuses to validate their decisions anyway, even though the excuses or the reasons might not make a lot of sense. But belief cures and belief kills. So it's really here, there, we can't do anything about it. You just do what you got to do to survive and live life, and if it can't be good, to be creative. So that's what I have to say to that.
Okay. So those are all my questions. If you had anything else to add, I want to give you the opportunity to do that. But if not, thank you for doing this.
All right, no problem. Just saying that, guys, wherever you go in the world, just try to be your best version of you. Live your life. Life is short. Be kind. Be a positive human being. Don't be evil. Just do good. I mean, you don't have to like everybody. Everybody doesn't have to like you, but at least try and have a positive impact on someone's life, and pay it forward. I mean, that's really what life is about: sharing experiences and growing and developing and enjoying stuff.